This is an AV Nation special. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host, but I am not the person of interest or honor today. I would like to welcome our very special guest, Ms. Kirsten Nelson. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you very much.
And
Thanks
I
for
can
having me. It's cool.
absolutely, and I can no longer introduce you as the editor of SCN magazine, but you are the editor at large. So congratulations for that.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a thrilling
Absolutely.
move.
So explain if someone doesn't know what an editor at large does. What is your new duties entail?
Well, basically, I'm still going to be out in public representing SCN. I'm still a part of the team. So I've been with the magazine 16 years. So when I said I wanted to make a career change, my bosses were kind enough to say, okay, we'll call it, it's going to be a transition. They're going to let me help Lindsay, the new editor, Lindsay Adler, who is perfect for the role. Um, so I have kind of a two-part thing. I'm still associated with SCN to help the brand, out in public. I'm still going to be showing up at trade shows. I'm going to ISE as editor at large and Infocom and various events in the New York area. I'm still going to be moderating panel discussions. I'll be throwing around that SCN editor at large title in addition to everything else I'm doing. That's kind of like it's definitely something I consider myself a part of because I'm going to be contributing to SCN as a writer too. So I'm helping to transition editorial. I'm helping to contribute. I'll still be doing my quirky interviews and providing Lindsay with access to my favorite, like all my different industry groups and people. So yeah, it's kind of hands off. Like I don't have to physically produce the magazine anymore, but I'm still kind of this source of information and also a representative of it. I'm still a representative of the magazine.
Yeah, it's a nice handoff. I mean, one of the things that you guys and a couple other publications, and we talked about here last year, was transition, right? A number of corporations, a number of manufacturers last year went through transition. This is kind of SCN's version of a transition, and I think you guys are doing it rather well with you still being there and being available for Lindsay.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, feel good about that.
Yeah. All right. So what the whole point of this, right? And I've long been a fan of yours, so this is a little fanboyish of me, I guess. I have, and I've told you that to your face. This isn't the
Yeah,
first.
yeah. I always get all Minnesotan when you do that.
Well, that's the thing, right? So that's this is kind of like a let's not this is your life, but let's learn a little bit more about Kirsten as she transitions into some other stuff, and I definitely want to get into what some of your new projects are, because I'm excited about them. So, but you mentioned the Minnesotan. You are in New York City.
Yeah.
How does use the old saying, how does a nice girl from Minnesota end up in New York?
I know, right? How did a nice girl like you end up in a place like this? Well, I yeah, I grew up in Minnesota, and even before I graduated from high school, I had never traveled growing up. I had never really been anywhere, but I knew of the folklore of the Northeast. I knew that as someone who was always an overachiever, A-type personality. Um, I came from a background of my dad's an electrical engineer, and so I was raised. He was very eccentric in his knowledge. He was a radio guy, like antique radios, but also ham radio. Took us to steam thresher festivals, actual festivals where you could watch old farm equipment operate. And we spent a lot of time learning about machinery, technology, the inner workings of everything. And repeatedly, my dad would sit me down in front of his stereo and put a record on. And his line one time when we were in the car, I turned on the pop radio station and he said, "Rock and roll is dead. Electronic music is the future." So that's what he would sit me down for these like listening sessions where this is called the sweet spot. And he would explain all of that. So I grew up very, very entrenched in this stuff, but I also knew that I was huge into literature and writing. I was born a writer. I actually knew from the time I was 6 years old and I first started reading chapter books that I would be a writer and I would have multiple novels. I knew I would write novels. So I chose to go to school in Boston, and I applied to one university. I just knew exactly where I wanted to go. I'd never been there, but I just, I believed the brochures, and luckily I was right. It was Boston University. Um, really great communications program, and I showed up there thinking I might be an English major or something, but I knew that was worthless. No offense to English majors. That's what NPR says like 10 times a day. No offense to English majors. But I happened to be on the escalator one day in my dorm, and I heard a student behind me say, "Oh yeah, she's a journalism major," and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's the way I could apply writing in a vocation that will make me a living." So I was a freshman, and so I signed up, and I was already in this thing called the core curriculum, which is basically like college on steroids. Like I was already learning every major philosophical text. It was a really amazing group called the core curriculum. So I was already like getting the best education imaginable. And I thought I'd be writing about art and literature, music, and I was. I was editor of the art section of our college paper. It was a student independent daily. So I was already running a paper. I took it from paste up into production, like actually in software. So I'm the girl who came in there and like made this magazine. So I learned every aspect of production: editorial planning, physical layout, staying up all night on press night. Oh my God. So when I graduated, I called one person in New York, my former internship boss, and he connected me with one person whose name is David McGee. David McGee is still with New Bay Media, and his son, Travis McGee, used to work for me, and he's now with Definition Brand and Marketing, really good PR firm. And his other son, Kieran, is also with that firm, and he also still works for SCN. So I was brought in for an interview by this man that became, I'm just lucky. He's a really good guy. He brought me in for an interview. I did one job interview, and I moved to New York. I remember the guy who became my mentor, this guy, Tim Wetmore, when he was interviewing me, I could tell now that he was trying to mess with me on purpose, because now I know that when you're interviewing someone, you're trying to like throw them off their guard to see how they react. But he said, "Okay, well, these magazines are pretty technical, and are you intimidated by all the terminology and the acronyms?" And I just was like, "No." And I told him about my background, and I added to that the fact that when I was in college, I was a raver. I was a part of like the rave scene.
Nice.
So all my friends were DJs, and everyone I knew was deeply entrenched in technology. So there's a theme: music, technology, music, technology, music, technology. So when I got this job, it was just, I remember thinking, "Oh yeah, okay, I could do this for a couple of years." Well, I very quickly became senior editor, managing editor, and then I launched Residential Systems magazine with Jeremy Kowalski. We launched it together in 2000, and my bosses were just thrilled that they actually had this talent that I could assemble an entire coterie of columnists. From nowhere, I could just invent a magazine. So they were like, "All right, you can have SCN," and it was hilarious. I was like, "Okay, I'll be editor." I was 24, and I thought, "Oh yeah, maybe a year or two." And then 14 years passed. And as a lot of people know, I moved around the country a little bit. I was in Utah for a while, Texas, but now I'm back in New York. And that's part of why I'm transitioning out of my role, because there's actually so much stuff I've been working on in the background of my SCN job that now I want to launch in New York. New York really still is the place for, if you are in media, you kind of want to be here, because there is still human-to-human networking that happens here. Like even on the subway, I've met people on the subway who are going to change my career. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So let me get this straight. You applied to one college.
Mm-hmm.
You've had one job interview. That's an amazing story in and of itself, right?
It's so, you know what? It's very similar to my father. He went to the University of Minnesota, and he had one job his whole life. But he had a phenomenal career, absolutely phenomenal career, because he moved within his organization very well. You know, he optimized every single group he was in at the firm. And I think, I don't know maybe I just have that same tendency of like, I'm going to maximize this, you know, and I have to say that in all my years at SCN, it was like a cumulative experience. Every year was better than the last. And I absolutely loved every second. You know, I feel really fortunate because if I landed, I always tell people, if I landed in some other industry, pretty sure it wouldn't have been like this, you know. But this industry is fueled by passion. You know, everybody here digs it, you know. And I remember if I was having a bad day at work, I would just call one of my favorite industry people. What are you working on? And amazing how much they could just change my mood because they were always so psyched about something, you know. And I love telling the stories of this industry. You know, it's I feel so ridiculously lucky that I ended up here. But yeah, maybe it was fate because I only had one job interview. I always only look at one apartment too. I never I always just find the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Look
pretty
out, I know exactly what I want and I'm gonna get it.
And there is something to be said about that, right?
Hmm.
So you've been the editor for 14 years. You've been at SCN for 16 years.
Yeah.
This may be an unfair question. It may be asking like who is your favorite child, but what is your biggest accomplishment? Do you think after 16 years?
Well, you know, it's actually kind of easy, and this answer is really easy for me because I've actually seen so many other people in this industry say similar things. I am ridiculously proud of the people I have kept close to me and the people I keep meeting. You know, I am very proud of, I guess you call it, my network. I've been so fortunate. Every time I tell a story about anyone I know from my life, I always say, oh, there's this guy and this woman. I've known them for 15 years, 16 years. A majority of people that I picked up in my first year at my job, I'm still close with. And that's killer. You know, like this is the life I built. You know, I showed up here, I met amazing people. I purposely always elevated them. I always elevated everybody I could. Anyone I met who I thought had a flicker of an idea, I would find a way to, you know, to like make it into a flame. You know, I loved it. It was, and I'm still doing that every single day. The best thing about this industry is, and the best thing about having a magazine, an outlet, was to say, oh, you're interesting, I want you in my magazine. And I could instantly be like, you are part of this, you are part of this. And I could get pretty sentimental if I talked about how much I truly love the people who I've been fortunate enough to have in my life because of this job.
Well, here's the thing. You that in and of itself is remarkable because so many people and you know people come and go through our lives and you know I'm 40 years old and I've had probably 2 or 3 careers. I'm very envious of you. I've had more than one job interview.
Yeah.
How have you done that though? How have you? Because it seems like a lot of work, right? Keeping in contact with people and this, that, and the other. How have you managed to keep people keep connected to you, keep folks connected to you?
Well, the first word that jumps into my mind is sincerity. I get a true thrill from knowing people and knowing what drives them. And it's so easy for me to stay in touch with everybody. And it's funny, if you have a conversation with me, I always feel a little bit snobby and ridiculous because I actually have friends physically all over the world. And I know that sounds completely pompous, but I really am a girl who grew up in Minnesota who never traveled anywhere. You know, I didn't grow up with a lot. And I think the one thing I did grow up, though, with massive sense of curiosity, you know, totally just my father, luckily, and my mother, they both cultivated all of my interests in art, music, and they always answered questions and cultivated the the notion that there's always more to learn from everybody. And I just can't believe how lucky I've been, because this is this completely infinite amount of intelligence in every single person I meet. And I always have this, my favorite part about this job was, I'd be thrown into these dinners with complete strangers, but by the end of the night, I would have found the thing that they loved. And that is what we were talking about at the end of the night. And, it's so easy for me to call people up once you connect with them that way. And I keep everybody in my thread. I see it all as one big moving tapestry of, you should meet this person, you should know this person, have you heard of this person? And I started having these events at every trade show, a dinner where people would meet each other who had never met before. I'm going to be doing a lot more of that in my future enterprise. I'm getting ready to host events that are along this notion of, I know you, I know what you're capable of. I would really think it would be good for you to meet these other people, or they will want to know you too. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So to keep them, what's the short answer? The short answer is sincerity. I genuinely care about every single person that I am in touch with. I'm not even going to lie. I mean, they care so much about me. I feel ridiculously fortunate. I have this gigantic family. Yeah. So I guess sincerity. Be real. If you like someone, show it.
Yeah. And I will say this: I don't know you as well as I wish I did. I like I said, we've met face to face a couple of times, but the people that I do know who know you, I would absolutely echo those feelings.
So, that's sweet. Yeah, I feel ridiculously lucky.
Yeah. All right. You have a train to catch, so we'll move on then. Your next venture.
Okay.
One of the things that you and I did talk about when we were trying to schedule this interview was your next adventure.
Yeah.
And you didn't take an interview for this because it's yours, right? I guess you interviewed yourself.
No job interview necessary.
Yeah. Like, Kirsten, what do you think about this? Well, Kirsten, I think it's a wonderful idea, and I think you should be on board.
I do talk in there. Yeah, I do that.
Yeah. So what exactly, what is it that you're doing in addition to your editor at large, right? This is something that you're going to launch, and you've already talked a little bit about connecting other folks, but exactly what is it and how does it work?
Well, I am launching, it's an industry analyst news website. It's going to be subscription-based, so it's not marketing, it's not advertising, it's paid subscription for premium content, similar to other industries with websites with an expert who spins off and does their own thing. I'm going to be going and getting the really in-depth, very detailed information that will help people with their businesses. But it's going to be kind of a two-part venture. Well, first of all, I should be plugging what it's called. It's called The Ledger. And the URL will be readtheledger.com. I'm working on the design for it now. I'm building a paywall website. There will be content that is free because I want to bring in everything and everyone I know who's interesting in the world to talk about that very fine line, that mix of ingenuity, entrepreneurialism, and creativity. I want to continue to explore that like I did at SCN. I had a people section that I always talked about. Who are you and how did you get here? Because I know everybody benefits from that. Whether or not they're taking a similar line or not, they learn from how that person harnessed their passion and did something with it. So this website at the edges will have that. I'm going to have everyone from my mixologist buddy in Portland, Oregon, all the way through to this guy. He's like a pizzaiolo. He goes into places and makes new pizza restaurants.
Oh, wow.
And those people with sound designers, video designers, acousticians, everybody I know who does everything amazing. I want to pull in their insights. And at the core of it will be the paid content, which is a whole bunch of in-depth stuff. I see it pretty clearly. I want to help all my favorite people in the industry. Favorite people, I say that, but you know what I mean. Like, these people that I know what keeps them up at night. I know what they're worried about now, what they're thinking about for the future, and that constantly changes. So every day I'll have content that's about a succession plan and stuff like that, buying out your own business, all that critical stuff. People who want to make moves like I'm making, I want to help give them the data and the information to do what they want to do. And then also some hard numbers. People want market sizing. People want access to the network I have. And I have a network, one of my key people from the beginning is someone out in Wisconsin who's just an incredible core integrator. He's a great philosopher too. I have everyone from him up to, the guy that does every single stadium install. I want to take that. I see it kind of as like this big cross section, this network of every size of integrator, every vertical, and I want to find the middle and do that, the market sizing that actually correlates with who do you want to talk to about this product, who do you want to talk to about this opportunity. So it's going to be kind of a science and art website, which I feel like that's been my whole career, science and art, and where they merge. So.
No, that's very cool. What's you mentioned market data and stuff. A lot of times, folks in the publishing industry, when you're dealing with AV, they don't like to talk about market and market data.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that important to integrators and or to anybody reading your site?
Yeah, that's what's interesting. So I talked to manufacturers, and they're pretty desperate for numbers because everyone has to go back to somebody else to justify any decision, right? And I think, especially in today's increasingly, there's a lot of conglomerations out there, and it's a lot of times you need to justify with numbers. You need to be able to say, no, well, 20% increase here, blah, blah. And it's interesting if you can point to a number and then attach it also to case studies. And these are from real life as opposed to, conjecture or something from another industry that's kind of, we can pretend it has something to do with our industry. If it's something specific to this very interesting industry, I mean, this industry is like niche within niche within niche. Like, depending on what region you're in and what you specialize in and who you know, I mean, sometimes there's a guy in Birmingham, Alabama that does every giant screen installation in America. You wouldn't think that. It's kind of fascinating to me. To be able to isolate data about this industry is virtually impossible. But I feel like I'm the one. I can do this. I can try to throw some numbers around, and I mean, obviously with the support of people in the industry. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to go out and talk to every integrator I know. I've already started these conversations. In fact, what do you need to know? That's what I'm asking the integrators. Specifically, what would be valuable to you? And then the manufacturers already know what's valuable to them. So I'm going to find this kind of point where people are getting the data they need. It's going to be for manufacturers, integrators, consultants, reps, and PR people. Actually, one of my closest PR friends is the one who came up with this idea to do this site. And he said he's going to be one of my first customers. So yeah, I think I want it to be this pool of data, but also a place for passion, a place to get reinvigorated or to see stuff from similar industries, to see the work that's going to change your day-to-day, keep you going.
Yeah, and I when you told me what you were doing, I was like, well, let me know when I can do it, because I also maybe I'll be number 2 or number 3 subscriber, but it's
that's awesome.
It's interesting from 2 different levels, right? I mean, it's interesting from what we do here at AV Nation, because we need to know what the integrators need, right?
That's true.
We're pretty sure we know what the manufacturers need, but we don't know everything the integrators need. And from the NFED side, what I do on my daily job, those are my customers. Integrators are my customers, right? That's our business model. So very, very important. All right, as we wrap up here, what is your hope or your dream or your crystal ball, your foreseeing of the next year? What do you want to see when January 2016 rolls around?
Oh gosh, this question, it's so funny how much it immediately just ties into my personal ambition, you know. And I'm realizing as I answer it that, well, my personal ambition ties in with what I want to do professionally. I'm actually I'm writing a novel. I am a fiction writer too, and January 2016, the novel is published with a publisher. Um, this site is rolling, and not only is the ledger in motion, it is a place where everyone's a contributor. By January, everyone's a part of it. Everyone who has been a part of my picture this whole time, and new people are joining in. We're all doing something different and new together, and doing stuff that is informative and helpful and founded in sincerity.
Yeah.
It's meant to be something that will elevate everybody. And I think, I mean, I could go on and on about what I want for January 2016. My birthday's in January too, so I always
very good.
Year. And I'll be turning 40. So
it's not as bad as everyone says.
Oh no, I think it's really, yeah, I'm digging it. Like I love my late 30s, you know, they've been awesome.
Yeah.
But I could go on and on. I'm a big fan of romantic comedies and Hallmark Channel movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I think also in January 2016, I kind of picture like the Hallmark movie ending. You know, there's puppies, there's happiness, there's romance. If we predict it here, it'll automatically happen, right?
Yes, absolutely. I've been predicting for 3 years that Cisco's going to buy a control company, and you know, it's not happened. Yeah, I've got my. I think. Yeah, I don't want to get into it because this is about you, but yeah, that I think they are eventually. So,
well, we should do another hangout where we talk about our predictions. That'd be really fun.
All the bad ones that I've made and all the good ones you've made. So.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm lucky. I'm lucky to have a lot of people influencing every prediction I make. It's amazing how much I hear every voice of it. Not in a scary way, but I hear the insights of so many people. Every time someone asks me a question, I think, oh, what would so-and-so say? What would so-and-so say? I thread it all together, and that's how I give my answers, you know, based on what I've heard from what's really happening out there. So.
But see, that's a smart way to do it, is you kind of cultivate all of your different information. I mean, that's, I've always said I am never going to say that I'm the smartest person in the room, but I know a lot of really smart people, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I get my information.
Yeah, it's fun to be. I always say I like to do. I'm the distiller, you know, because I love single malt Scotch. So I take all this great material and I distill it down to an even finer material, and tastes good.
All right. So since you are a Scotch person as well as I am, what is your favorite single malt Scotch?
Lefroy 10.
Very good.
And I had the privilege of going to the Isle of Islay in February of 2014.
Yeah. And
I was so happy. I got to be on this island where all my favorite scotches are made.
Oh, nice.
And it was courtesy of Tannoy loudspeakers.
Nice.
Because Graham Hendry is.
Yeah.
We're both Lefroy fans, so I got to go to Lagavulin tasting, and I'm telling you, I got to run around in the hills of Islay, you know, this crazy tiny island, you know, and that was because of my job.
Yeah, that is cool.
I can't even. I feel like I got to knock on wood right now, you know.
Yeah.
Lucky.
Very lucky. All right.
Well, so I think it's find out yours.
Oh, Macallan 10 is mine.
Oh.
Glenmorangie is a close second, and if my local establishment that I get, you know, the bottles from are they out of Macallan, then I will go to Glenmorangie.
Okay, that I know the edge of that one. I've had when I hang out with all the Brock McGinnises and all those guys, Kelly McCarthy, etc. It's usually Macallan that comes out.
Yeah, Brock has turned me on to 12 and 15, but that's a little bit out of my pay scale for for a whole bottle. So, but
Yeah.
Macallan 10 is right there. So
Yeah, I guess that's true. You gotta. There's a business scotch, when you're on trip,
yes,
and there's the personal scotch.
exactly, exactly. And Bradford Ben from Harmon turned me on to the Death Star ice. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have one of those.
Yeah, I'm still a neat girl,
Okay.
but that's we can go back. It comes full circle to me being from Minnesota. I think I've got some hardy stock.
All right. If anyone is trying to get a hold of you or in touch with you, or to find out about readtheledger.com, how would they do so?
Well, you can find me on Twitter. This is my personal Twitter. That is now my professional Twitter. So it's at my name, at Kirsten Nelson, at KirstenNelson. That's where you can find me. I'll be tweeting links to the stuff as I start. I'm already working on the content, so I'm going to be leaking content as we lead up toward ISE. I already have a lot of amazing interviews in the can. I can't believe it. And I will be launching those over the next few weeks leading up to ISE. And the URL again is readtheledger.com. It's in the imperative. Read the ledger. And my personal email address is my whole name. But I don't know if we give that out on these kind of things.
The Twitter's fine. You don't want to get
Yeah, we'll go Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter.
Yeah, man. I really want everyone to contact me about it because I want to have so many levels of stories. And not just stories. I want to have perspectives. So, hey, everybody, come on in. And then I'll be launching, I'm going to have a party, probably, I want to have a party in New York, and then I'm going to try to do something. I'm still working on some plans for actual events, because the events are going to be a big part of this. So I guess stay tuned. Keep following my Twitter, because it's also amusing and kind of weird,
It is indeed. It's not that weird. So, all right. I want to thank you very much for your time. And in all seriousness, I really have been a big fan of yours. And this sounds kind of weird, but thank you very much from me personally and from everybody here at AV Nation. We use SCN and stuff that you write for a long time, and I've just been a personal fan of just the way you conduct yourself. So, but yeah,
thank you. Gosh, seriously, thank you. It's always so nice to hear that being received well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, this has been a special interview with Kirsten Nelson. Check out the website or just follow her on Twitter at Kirsten Nelson. And once it launches, go to readtheledger.com. My name is Tim Albright. Thank you much for watching. Thank you much for listening.